Hey everybody, it's Ivan Abla here for another episode of the podcast with Rebellion Hockey, Slapshots, Cellys, and Storytime. Really excited to have Jason Strudwick with us this week. Obviously, a former NHLer, host with the Jason Gregor show that I listen to all the time, and the leader with Strudwick Camps, and we're going to touch on that. Thanks for coming on the show, Jason. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Yeah, excited to be on.
Yeah, you dealing with the heat all right at the Strudwick Castle there?
Yeah, I'm not a big. I mean, I like heat. I'm like a 24, 25 degree guy. So when it starts creeping over 30, I'm not really built for that. I tend to sit in the shade a little more. Not a lot of running around. I went for a bike ride this morning, and it was already pretty hot. I came home just soaked. So I don't know. Whatever. I'm not complaining, but like you get over 30, unless I'm close to a tropical body of water, it's not quite the same.
A cold drink in hand. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
These are the days when you kind of appreciate kind of coming out of a cool rink, and it's kind of
right. Exactly. Right? Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So I want to get your thoughts before we go into everything else about the Staley Cup playoffs. Obviously, today is going to be game one, Staley Cup Finals. Were your dollars on this matchup in the final?
Oh yeah, I've made millions off this. No, I think Tampa Bay was somewhat possible or predictable. The Montreal, though, I think has been a surprise. I didn't know a lot of people that thought they might get this far, and if they did, they better show me their tweets because I have a hard time. Unless they're hardcore fans. I think it shows what can be done when you have a team built for this perfect system. And they have. Lots been made of their top four defensemen, how big and mobile, pretty mobile, physical they are. Then they have four lines that can play. I don't think they have a star in that group of four forwards, forward lines, but they've got smart players, long players. Like when I say long, like long sticks, long arms, tall, like they can pick up space. They have some explosive guys like a Cole Caulfield or Suzuki, Josh Anderson, who's just a bull out there, raging bull. So they really have a mixed bag, and I love because there's always that talk about you have to build a team like this to win, and I love that Montreal's built it their way, or Marc Bergeron's built it his way, his vision, and they've come this far. Now, whether they win or lose, obviously, is very emotional for that team and for that group of fans. But I love the fact that they're able to go out and like Frank Sinatra do it his way and get this far. And can another team build this way? Possibly, but there's no guarantees. Tampa's built one way, but they're just bucket full of skill. The best goalie in the world, arguably the best defenseman in the world, arguably the most dangerous player on the planet in Kucherov. But Montreal, I think they have a chance. They have a chance because they have a team system. Not that Tampa doesn't, but Montreal has a system. And Tampa's going to have to play a really smart, shrewd game to beat them.
Yeah, you got to look at that Tampa Bay Lightning as an opposition. You just got to look down the lineup and you're just like, wow, like how do you beat these guys? But I mean, the Islanders managed to scrape some wins, and they took them right down to the last minutes of Game 7. So it goes to show you that coaching goes a long way, I guess, and just work ethic.
Yeah, 100%, and that Montreal is relentless. And we're not suggesting John Cooper's not a good coach because he is, but Ducharme and Richardson, they found a way that is working really well for them. And give those players credit; they believe in it 100%. Like they are all in on playing the Montreal Canadiens way right now. And it's hard. You got Philip Deneau hasn't scored a goal. He's in a contract year. He has not scored a goal in these playoffs. And yet there he is doing it every night against other teams' top line. And, is it going to cost him money? No, ultimately, probably not. But in his head, he's probably like, God, I got to score some goals as a contractor. He's in it to win it. And that just is complete unselfishness, complete, total, utter unselfishness. And, ultimately that's how you win. Like the greatest prize, you surrender a little bit of yourselves to the team to win.
That Philip Deneau would look good in Oiler blue.
Oh God, he would have. I mean, I think he's actually making himself more money right now the way he's playing, because he's
Yeah.
played against some that, you think about Matthews, you think
Yeah.
about Shifley, and I know Shifley got bumped, and now he beat, Vegas with Stone
Yeah.
and Pacioretty, and now this one is going to be Braden Point. I mean, that's a murderer's row of offensive weapons in NHL, and this guy is at worst breaking even against those guys.
Yeah.
And at best, as we saw, scoring the overtime winner to secure a series.
Awesome. And do you have a prediction for how long this one
Oh
goes?
God, I don't. I know what my family have one. All my family have 11 of us in there, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to decide today. And you know what? I don't know. My heart says Montreal, but my head says Tampa. But
Yeah.
my heart has said that every time about Montreal. Like, there's no way. There's no way. And so maybe they get it done. So I don't know. I guess I have to give you one. I'll
Yeah.
go Tampa. I think Tampa. But
Yeah.
I hope
Yeah.
I'm wrong. Like, this is one I pray that I'm wrong, because Montreal I think is a
100%.
very likable team. Very, very likable team.
100%. It's a Cinderella story. I mean, like I don't
Yeah.
see how they beat Tampa Bay, but if they do, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, you think about they've played against a good, like Pietrangelo is one of the best D right up there with Hedman. And
Oh,
yeah, he had some great moments, but they beat him. They beat a team that's a great defense like Pietrangelo.
yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it turns out.
Yeah.
That's the fun part of it. All right. So the main reason to being on the Rebellion limo bus here with me is that we want to talk about yourself and about your decamps. So I mean, let's tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously, we know that you played in the NHL. You finished off your career with right here in Edmonton, but I think your roots go back to minor hockey in Edmonton. So tell us where that was here and a little bit about that.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of tournaments going on right now for kids, and if anyone would have watched me play when I was 10 or 12 or 14, no one would have said, "Oh my God, this guy's going to be an NHL player." And I try to tell that to kids, both female and male players, and quite frankly, any sport, is that it's a long, long journey. Becoming a professional athlete is a long journey, unless you're a gymnast, in which you're pretty much done by 9. You haven't won an Olympic medal.
Yeah.
But for most sports, it's a long, long journey, and it's one it needs a lot of dedication, patience, effort, and then you have to just outlast some people sometimes, and I try to counsel people that you have to keep doing the right thing every day. So when you have a practice, are you giving 100% effort? Are
Yeah.
you listening to the feedback of your coach? Do you go and shoot extra pucks on days you don't have anything? Do you watch hockey? Do you try to learn from other people? When you get on the ice with older kids, do you watch what they do and try to keep up with them rather than giving up? And it's not one practice or not one coach is going to turn you into whatever the best version of yourself is. It's just a continuous amount of effort and just time. It's a long, long journey. So you may be the 20th best player on your team out of 21 players right now, but in 2 years that can change, because people find other interests and not everyone's going to want to play hockey for
Yeah.
12 or 14, 15, 16, 18. They might, they're going to find other interests. They might choose other sports. It might not be fun anymore. There's all kinds of things that happen. So you just have to keep on just every day giving your best effort. I would say the same for school. It's the two to me are very similar. You just keep on doing your best day in, day out, getting the work done you need to be done. And then, if things go right, and maybe it kind of get in the right place at the right time, like I do, I played KC hockey till I was done grade 12, and we were awful. And I was a Kamloops Blazers scout, came to watch another player, the Calgary Buffaloes, when we were playing. I think we lost like 8-1 or something. And after the game, he came to find my dad. He's like, "I love the way your son plays." My dad's like, "Well, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "No, I'd love to talk to your son." And my dad's like, "No, my son wants to go to college." And then 2 weeks later, he came back and watched me again. And he approached my dad again. And finally, my dad said, "You can take my number, but I don't think my son's really interested." And so my dad talked to me about it. I'm like, yeah, no, let's talk to him. So, I ended up going down there for a visit to Kamloops. And this is in like February or March of that year. And I practiced with the team for 2 or 3 days. And the second I stepped on the ice, I knew it's what I wanted to be. And I was on the worst team in probably midget hockey that year. And I stepped on to camps. It was pretty good. Signed right after that. Go next year. Go from the worst midget team in Alberta to winning the Memorial Cup. And then a month later, I was drafted in the third round of the NHL. I go back the next year. We win the Memorial Cup again. This time I'm assistant captain. And I signed a month later. So in 2 years, I went from the worst midget team and hoping to maybe go play junior A somewhere, then and then maybe get a college scholarship. To all of a sudden going from the worst midget team to two Memorial Cups drafted and signed, and then 2 seasons later, I'm playing in the NHL. So I mean, there's and things have maybe changed a little bit, but I think I was very relentless. I think the word that my parents would use was stubborn. I just want to see how good I could get. And I was every day. I never missed a workout. I never missed a practice. I always did the extra things I needed to do, and I just kind of passed people as I went along. And here I am now, years later, talking about how great a career I had. But to be honest, like no one had my poster on the wall. Maybe my kids, but I think they put Connor McDavid over top of my poster. So I maxed out. I maxed out my ability.
Yeah.
And I would hope for anyone in any business or any career they choose, if they can say the same when they're done. They maxed out their ceiling. They did everything they could. And I feel that way. So when I was done playing, I walked away with no regrets. I had no Stanley Cups, no Norris trophies. But I couldn't squeeze another drop of like life out of my career. It was dead. And but I was happy. I walked away and I'm like, I'm done. I did everything I could.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's all you can ask for. I mean, I think people would probably be surprised hearing that story. I mean, you think that somebody that played in NHL, when the Bantam draft went, they were in the top 10 of the Bantam draft, and the whole fairy tale story of how they got to NHL. And but I think probably people will be surprised that there's more stories than not about how people just kind of grind it out, and maybe blossom late. And would that be fair to say, to tell some kids just don't give up the dream, if or
So I think what it is that everyone, when we think of hockey players, we think of Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, David Pastrnak, the best players, and those guys are elite. And trust me, I would have loved to be one of them. It's not like I didn't want to score goals. I just couldn't. But on every team, there are different roles needed. There's 20 roster spots every night, 2 goalies, 18 skaters. And there's different requirements, right? And if you look at the Montreal Canadiens, you have a guy in Philip Deneau, all he does is shut down the other team's top line. You look at Shea Weber, he's got a bomb of a shot, he defends, and he's one of the meanest people on the ice every night. You look at Josh Anderson, really fast, drives the net and can score goals, but he's just big and physical. Corey Perry, he's maybe the most irritating thing except a pebble in your shoe. Everyone has their role on that team. So if you're playing on a team and you're not the best player, how can you be the best version of yourself and help your team win? Because as you move up, the world needs penalty killers. They need third and fourth liners. They need guys that can play with really good play. Can you go and retrieve the puck and get it to the top players? There's so many different ways to be a member of a team and be a contributing member of a team, that just because you don't score 15 goals every tournament doesn't mean you're not a successful or can't be a successful hockey player.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. And I obviously you're a defenseman, and I just this weekend, watching a few of our clubs playing games, you can see some defensemen are calm, and just poke the puck. You see the other team's best player coming at you. I mean, you saw some of the best NHLers coming at you, and keeping calm and I guess taking the right steps to get players to go wide or whatnot. Are those some things that you teach and empower to your students of your camps?
Yeah. So I think the big thing for me is if you're talking specifically to one-on-ones, the kids need reps. You need, you can't. I get approached by coaches all the time, say, well, my D-man can't break up the puck. I'm like, well, how often do you work with them on that specific skill? And there's a long pause. I'm like, well, to be honest, I think you're the problem. Like
Yeah.
you're not working with them. You can't ask your kids to do something they haven't practiced. If you're not teaching them to read German, they're not going to be able to speak German. Like it doesn't work that way, right? Like so. I would advise any coach listening, you should dedicate 15, 20 minutes of your practice time to position specific training. That was easy for me to say. I think you have to put that time in, right? And then within that, like for D, I would do a ton of one-on-ones and a ton of breakups, simple breakups, ups, overs, reverses, up, over, reverse. Then you add pressure. And I want to simulate or create a situation where I'm simulating game-like plays in practice. So when they get to the game, they're like, oh, right, I've seen this. So once they get the general idea of what an up is, an over is, or whatever breakouts you want to use, add pressure, one-man pressure, two-man pressure. Make it hard for them. Put the puck in awkward spaces, just so that they get used to it, and they've done it over and over and over and over. Like it just, and that's all year. That's from day one of practice right to your last practice, 25, 30, 50 practices later. And it might not pay dividends that first year, but that second year you'll start seeing it. That third year, and all of a sudden they get into Pee Wee Bantam. Now all of a sudden they're making plays. And when you get to a game, and if a young Ivan Abelar turns up the puck and tries to pass it, and he makes the right play but a bad pass, and ends up in your net, when he comes back to the bench, you say, that's the right play, just make the pass next time. You don't criticize him, because if you rip on Ivan, he will not want to do that play again. And you have to be so positive. And that's hard. That's hard when you're a coach, because you just want to win. Oh, we got to win. And I get it, there are sometimes moments bigger than a win, especially early. It's October, November. If Jason Strudwick turns up, checks his shoulder, turns up, looks and sees the guy open and misses a pass, and it goes to the other team and they score, he's done everything right except the execution. And and then you go back and practice. Say, look, you've done this 10 out of 10 times. Next game you do it, and you build them up. Because you look at players in the NHL, the D-man now, you have to be able to make first passes. That's all you do. First pass and defend. If you can do those two things, you can play in the NHL for 100 years.
You mentioned that coaching part of thing. Is it the coaches that you had growing up to the coaches that you see now? Obviously, there's been quite an evolution on how people coach. Is that one big thing now? Is that I think before you just rip on the kid and it's kind of negative reinforcement, where now it's just different approach.
Yeah, 100%. It's changed. It's unfair to kind of judge, coaches that pass with the lens of today. Yeah. I think it's unfair, and they were doing their best, just like I'm doing my best with my kids. You are, and 20 years from now, people are gonna look back and like, oh my God, Jason, Ivan, those two guys are idiots. Things change all the time. So, I think we're trying to do what we think is the best today. But I really do think that positive reinforcement is a huge part of coaching. It doesn't mean there aren't times to be critical of players, and I'm more critical of effort and paying attention. Those are two things that I don't compromise on. If I explain the drill and then on a board, so because I like to do a lot of that in the dressing room before. But let's say I show you a new drill, and then we go on the ice. I explain it one more time, then I demonstrate it. And if after those 3 times you get it wrong, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. Yeah. That's a you problem. And especially if you get to the guys who 2, 3, 4, 5 in the line, and they've watched other people doing it correctly, or haven't watched maybe, and then they get it wrong. Again, that's not the coach's problem. That's your problem. And those and I think that's a learning lesson, because if they're not getting that in the practice, do you think they're learning at school? Are they watching at school and paying attention? So that's where I think that those two things they come together, the school and the hockey, or school and sport.
Yeah. Now, I guess I want to share with our Rebellion families about your camps, and then for defensemen that need some great tutelage. They may be getting great coaching now, but I mean, obviously we go to hockey camps for some specialized training. So tell us about your camps and what you offer, and
Yeah, so they run August 9th and August 16th. And the one's up at Castle Downs the first week, and the second week's in Dawn. It's all at jasonstrudwick.com. You'll see this ugly face on that website. But I think that I mean, obviously I'm a bit biased. What I like about my camp is for Dmen. Now I get a lot of forwards coming too, but I try to be really specific. I try to work on a lot of movement, puck movement, breakouts. We do a lot of breakouts. We do a lot of one-on-one stuff out of the corner, full ice. There's no hitting. There, even for the older kids, I don't need to see people. There's rubbing out, but we're not there to get hurt. And I've never had a player hurt all my camps, so I'm really quite tight on that. But it's sometimes, and I have kids to play, and it's sometimes nice to have a different voice. Try to get inside your kid's head. And you're right. There are a lot of good coaches out there. I see them. And I've been on the ice with some of your rebellion teams, and I know they're good. But just like I put my kids in different camps, I want to have a different voice, and something that I say might resonate differently than something someone else is saying to their players, right? So we have a lot of good kids. It's not for just elite players. And we usually within a group, I have kind of like a third, kind of a mixed bag of players, and I'll put those groups together. Just not to separate them, make them feel better, just so things can run a little smoother. I started out with a guy right when I retired. He asked me to work with this kid in the mornings. I'm like, I don't know, and we went out there, and I think I learned more from them than they learned from me. But that's been 10 years now, I think, and I've been doing the camp I think for nine or 10 years, and I've really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Now some of the kids I've worked with I had a couple of kids, sign in the NHL, and not that I had that much to do with it, but it was just kind of neat to see where they go. And I want them to, be the best version they can of themselves. And I hope they take away some techniques that I have, and then quite frankly, just have a good time and kind of get themselves ready for their upcoming season.
Awesome. Yeah, and then depending where anybody's watching this, we'll have Jason's information around this video with the website and any social media links. And so I recommend that you reach out to Jason and book a spot. We have some Rebellion players already booked with his camps, and then I'm sure after this there'll be more. I hear Jason's a funny guy. The word around on the street is that he can be a funny guy sometimes too. So
I try to keep it fun. Like I'm a pretty relaxed guy. I do like the kids to have fun. I find that I'm always asked, why do you only do an hour a day? And I think that when you're teaching, I love talking about defense. I could talk about it all day, but when you're 9 or 12 or 14, it's not that exciting. So I'd rather the kids go off having been entertained and wishing we had an extra 20, 30 minutes rather than, they're like, oh my God, this is just dragging out. So we get in there and we have 3 or 4 coaches on the ice and we're moving constantly, and they're whipping through the things, and then we're done. And they're like, oh, geez, it's done. And I'm like, yeah, let's just keep moving. So it is really fun. I really enjoy it, and I do like to mess with the kids a bit, which is fun for everybody.
That's good. Well, speaking of fun, it's Slapshots, Cellys, and Storytime. So I know that Jason's full of stories. I listen to them on the radio. From his med school days to
right.
all that fun. So I mean, do you have any a couple stories they can share that
Sure. Yeah, I remember when I first got, I was a very proud young man. I'm not a violent guy. I was never one to fight at school or anything, but I think I got actually beat up by one of my classmates. She was a girl. She was tough, and I don't even remember why we fought, but I got punished. So not good. But I had to learn to fight, and I remember I was playing my first year in the minors, and I wasn't doing that well in the fight department. But where we played a place called Worcester, Massachusetts, the other team warmed up in the far end of the rink, and we had to come off on our end and go out the door to get back to their dressing room. So I always wanted to be one of the last guys on the ice. Myself and Jason Windler, we'd skate around. I just wanted to be the last guy on the ice, kind of protective of our net, whatever. So anyways, I'm skating around, and this huge guy named Eric Heron, he skates down to our end, and he takes a puck and shoots in our net. And Eric Heron is like he's tougher than me 8 days a week. Like
Yeah.
he is way tougher. So I'm only 20 at the time, but I go and get the puck, and I'm so mad. I pull it out of the net, and he's walking down the exit to get to his dressing room, and I take the hardest slap shot I can. I hit him right in the back of the leg, and this
Oh
guy,
no.
it was like hitting a grizzly bear with a BB gun. And this guy just snapped, and he's like, I can't really say what he said, but you can
Yeah,
imagine
I
it wasn't
yeah,
very
imagine.
kind.
Yeah.
So he walks off, and I wait like 20 minutes. I didn't want to go off the ice. I was so scared to walk out there.
Yeah.
And my buddy's like, "What'd you do? What'd you do?" I'm like, I don't know. Why did I do that? So anyways, I finally walk off the ice, like get into our dressing room, and my buddy Widmer's like, "Why would you do that?" I'm like, "I don't know. I had to. I had to." Like, he shot a puck around. He's like, "Don't worry, don't worry. You're a defensive. He's a defensive. You guys will never meet up. Never have to fight." Like right after those words leave his mouth, in come our coach, and he's like, "Struddy, one of our guys is sick. You got to play left wing." I'm like, "Oh my god!" So I'm like, "Oh my god!" So we skate out again now. It's before the game, and he's like, "Strudwick, you're dead. You're dead." I'm like, "Come and get it. Come and get it." And I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna die." And so we're first couple shifts, nothing happens, and then we finally get out against each other. He grabs me and just starts hammering away on me, and I'm trying to hide and dodging, and it was like I was so out of my league. So eventually he gets tired. I was fine. I was just getting tossed around. It ends, and we go in the penalty box. He's like, "We're fighting, and we're fight 3 times. I'm gonna kill you every time." Like, "That's fine. Let's go." Like trying to act tough, right? So, anyways, so he about 2 or 3 minutes later, he kind of calms down. He's like, "Struddy," I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Bad news. I've cut my hand. Can't fight anymore." I'm like, "Oh, too bad, buddy." And I was so thankful that he cut his hand. Like, it was the best. It was like I got off the Green Mile. I was so thankful. And I never fought him again. I think we both knew how to end. But my God, that was so scary. Like he and now no one there's none of that anymore. Right? But back then it was very commonplace.
Yeah. Is there any a funny story from your time with the Oilers that you could share to kind of wrap things up?
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, we had, we it was unfortunate. We had that first year I was there with Mac T. I thought we had a playoff. We really struggled the last 2 weeks. Otherwise, we would have been a playoff team, which is really disappointing. But we had Pat Quinn, and Pat was a funny guy. He worked the refs over all the time, and so we ended up getting this penalty one. We got a few penalties in. So my partner and I, Tom Gilbert, go out to kill the penalty. And after about a minute, there's a stoppage in place. So Tom and I come back in. So I'm sitting on the bench here, and Pat's over my shoulder, and the play's down there. So they drop the puck. We're still shorthanded, and all of a sudden I hear Pat, "Oh!" And again, he's swearing to me, "Holy jeez, we can't do anything. We can't get the puck out of our end. We can't pass. We can't defend. We're awful. Why can't we do anything?" And one of the assistant coaches goes, "Pat, we're killing a penalty." It's like, "Oh, we're actually doing a pretty good job."
Sounds like he's a beauty.
Oh, he was no, we miss him. He was a great guy. But it was just a tough time. Our team was.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate you hopping on the show here and spending some of your time with us. Again, Rebellion folk, click on the link below and pay him a visit, and I'm sure your defenseman won't be disappointed. And tune in to, I guess, to Jason in the afternoons. And anything else will be at the promoter years?
No, thanks for having me on. I know you guys run a good program, so I'm sure we'll cross paths at the rink, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Jason. And stay tuned for more great episodes, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.